I want to talk today about the uh, national conversation. I guess it's a global conversation, but it's a conversation between two people, two types of people. One is a believer in official explanations, the other person is a questioner, a challenger, or a disbeliever in official explanations. And this conversation has certain dynamics that I've noticed in it, and I'd like to go over some of the things that I have noticed because myself, I as far back as I can remember, I've always questioned official explanations. I usually have a problem with them, and I've been in many debates, many conversations, with people who accept them, you know. And an official explanation for me is certainly the government issues them, but official explanations can be found in history books, religion, science, philosophy. They're you know they're they're actually where we are. I mean, we all have them and depend upon them. That's for sure. Like what was that? And so we want to know. We want to know. And I've often wondered, like way back in the cave days, first comet came across, and one of the cave guys knew what it was, knew all about it. And of course, they didn't, and they wanted to know what it was. I wonder, way back then, what would he have? What's the deal? Does he tell them, or does he take that football and run? Because knowledge is power. And you could get all kinds of things from people knowing certain things. But I'll shut up about that. The official explanation, and like I say, people who uh, who who question official explanations nowadays they run into the term conspiracy theorist, and in well, on this day and at this hour, conspiracy theorist, it has it's derogatory. There's a ridicule in there when you're referred to as a conspiracy theorist, and it's there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. It's I don't think this. Now I'm getting in another conspiracy theorist, but I don't believe it's accidental. Uh, the the tribe of people who question official explanations is a large one, and I would think a small part of that tribe is inhabited by people who, loonies. They're nuts. They are, mentally ill, I suppose, mentally troubled. And there's inside that little group, there's a large gamut of mental problems. So and for me, it's like that person, the loony, the tinfoil hat wearing loony. The news media is very careful to give that person airtime, and this is the person for me that gets the most airtime. And anytime, uh, well, uh, the subject of uh, UFOs or alien life, possibility of alien life, anytime that subject comes up and interviews are conducted, on film and a show is presented, anytime, I've never seen it fail. They are very careful to have interviews with the loony, the tinfoil hat wearer. And you might be watching a show that is interviewing a person who earnestly is trying to describe an experience they had with a UFO or an alien. And you might have an interview with a professor that is earnestly addressing the mathematical probability of alien life. And you might have a person who may have, worked for the government and may have actual data and films, etc., that the government has collected on unidentified flying objects, that kind of thing. But what they do is, during that interview with the professor, they always cut, and then they go to another, the loony. So you have the professor, and then you have the loony. You have the scientist and the loony. And it's very skillfully blended. And long story short, after an hour of watching the documentary or news report, it's very difficult to distinguish the two. The overall effect, the end of this film, the message is clear as a bell. It's not even subliminal. That conspiracy theorists are loony, and anyone who believes there might be extraterrestrials is loony. Anyone who believes they saw an unidentified flying object is loony. There's a loony tinfoil hat wearer connotation to conspiracy theorists. And it's a technique, and it's easy to recognize. And like I say, I've seen it over and over again, and it is applied to many schools of thought, but it is almost 100% applied to people who question official explanations. This technique I'm talking about, I've always believed that it could be used on Albert Einstein, and I think it would be a slam dunk with him because for many reasons. But you could, you could imagine an interview with Albert Einstein, if you will, and he's talking about his theories, and then while he's talking, they would. They'd get that interview, and then they would splice it with a tinfoil hat wearer and blend the two together. And it would be, let's see, the curvature of space and time is proportional to the amount of mass. And then they cut the film, and this guy, on the dark side of the moon, there is a Masonic temple. And inside that temple, the temple was built by aliens, and inside that temple are members of the Illuminati. And they have a beam, a power beam, and they can shoot it straight out, and it curves around the moon, and it can hit any place on Earth, and it can't be traced. And then they cut it back to Einstein, and he's going, the curvature of the space and time dictates the curvature of the light, yeah? And then back to the tinfoil hat weather, and they can control the weather, the economy. They can do anything with this weapon. And then back to Einstein, yeah. And it goes like that, And there'll be inevitably an interview with one of Einstein's friends, And the friend will be talking about how Einstein, as a young man, would go to the library and then couldn't find his way home. And they would report him. The librarian would say, "You've got to come walk him home because he's disoriented. You can't remember where he is. It's as if the man is drunk." And then the interviewer, he's like, like that. I mean, it's implied. And, the interviewer is, he does stuff like, "So Albert, the thing with the light and the bent and all that, you're talking about a star, right?" "Yeah, yeah." And why can't we see the star? Well, is it behind the sun? And yeah, and it's just like, oh, I see, you know. And so there's a way to debase anybody, and during such an interview, both people, the Looney and Einstein, they're both trying to describe something that's difficult to describe, and the only way they're going to get their message to sink in, I guess, is to get your attention. But they've lost their audience, both of them. The Looney, because his stuff is not based in reality, and then Einstein, because he's been blended with the Looney. So when the credits roll, yeah, old Al, he's right in there with the tinfoil hat wearers, and I think this is the basic technique that has been used in my lifetime since the Kennedy assassination. That's the first time conspiracy theories took hold, and yeah, it's always been used. It's always been used in my lifetime to embarrass someone, to ridicule them, and I think today it's a way to get people to be quiet because people are reluctant to speak out on an issue or an official explanation because they're afraid they're going to be branded with this conspiracy theorist stigma. So there are, I guess I'm talking to everybody here, but I definitely would like to connect with people who think outside the box. They don't really accept some things about official explanations, etc. But I want to say, don't ever hesitate to speak your mind, and don't worry about the conspiracy theorist stigma. It actually makes us censor ourselves, and I feel it every time I speak out. I sure do feel it. I'm feeling it right now, but I think that people, truth seekers, they have a lot to offer the national conversation, the global conversation about what we are told, which I call official explanation. And the first dynamic, hold on.